My name is Michael Patella. I'm the owner and founder of Common, and you're listening to the Talk Carby to Me podcast.
Everyone joining us today. I just wanted to take a second to introduce my good buddy, Michael, who's the founder of Common. It's a fitness and lifestyle brand based in Canada. Um, Happy to have you here on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely long overdue. I love a lot of the stuff that you got going on. So I wanted to have you on, talk about what you got going on, the brand, what you've been doing in the gym. And, given the nature that this week is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone that celebrates. And just go through some holiday eating stuff, what works for folks, what doesn't, what's a myth, what's not. And I'm sure we'll tackle a bunch of other stuff that we got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's funny because me being Canadian, for some reason, Canadians are somewhat jealous of the Americans when it comes to Thanksgiving because you guys do it so nice. Whereas here in Canada, it's in October. Nobody really cares about it. It's not a big deal. Whereas in the States, or at least where I'm from, since I'm like border city with Detroit, Michigan, I almost feel like I'm American. So I feel like we get ripped off with our Thanksgiving, whereas with the Americans, it's like it kicks off the holiday season. It kind of kicks off this like really good vibe. And so I was always kind of akin to wanting to celebrate American Thanksgiving more than my own.
Yeah. What I find super funny about Thanksgiving is I think it's probably one of the most like overshadowed holidays lately in like recent years. So you'll see people, November 1st, day after Halloween, Christmas trees going up. We're instantly, we forget, fall, November, and it's like, I want the holiday spirit already. And it's like, let's save it for those, 20 days. So I personally love Thanksgiving. I love the holiday, spend time with the fam, eat some good food. If you're bulking, right, it's a great time to, cash in on that. How do you guys do it over there in Canada?
I think it's October 10th, and it's like one day we'll have our turkey and stuffing, but that's about it. Whereas you guys have it from like Thursday into the Monday essentially, and you guys like all have it off. Nobody really works. For us, it's very simple. It's on a Monday, usually October 10th.
Oh, they hit you on a Monday.
Yeah, so like our Thanksgiving's on a Monday, but most people celebrate it on like a Sunday because the next day you have to go to work anyways. Whereas you guys do it on the Thursday, and then you have Friday off, Saturday, Sunday off.
Yeah, and in the true spirit of capitalism, Friday's Black Friday. You got a whole weekend of shopping. Monday, Cyber Monday.
It's a nonstop thing, man. It's like, and if you're a small business or if you're like an online coaching business, you almost get bought into the hype of like, oh, I gotta do all these promos, all this Black Friday. But it's like, yo, man, like, so I took Black Friday somewhat off. I'm not really promoting much just because it's like nobody cares.
Yeah, and
Nobody really cares.
and I think just the nature of human existence right now, you're so inundated with sales and ads. And I know me personally, I I like to disconnect from seeing all the ads, from just the shopping experience. Most of my shopping I'll do around the bigger days. I'll do it like on a random Wednesday or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it gets pretty annoying when all you do is look on the online space.
Yeah. So this is a nice little studio you got there. Is like your main studio or
Yeah, so when I guess a bit of a backstory because I had my studio out of my gym uh almost a year and a half ago now. So I had a gym for 10 years, and as I was going through the rebrand, I still kept my gym, and I try to make it into like a common studio. And so I had like my podcast studio in the gym there, and then I decided that I'm like, you know what, with this online rebrand, I didn't really want to keep the gym anymore. It's not where I saw my business heading in the future. So I got rid of it, sold my equipment, and I now made a studio in like the back part of my house. So like I have a little shed that I kind of just retrofitted with. It looks nicer when I actually have my camera set up. Now it looks like a ratty, dingy studio. But yeah, I got the turf here. I got all my signage stuff, and it's kind of where I do my content, where I do my podcast, all that stuff.
yeah, it looks awesome.
Thanks, man.
I'm jealous. I mean, mine is slowly turning from a gaming room into more of a legit thing as we kind of go.
I have to get more lights like you have. I love those lights.
So funny enough, these lights, I don't know why, like neon is kind of becoming my thing. So when I look at getting better branding and stuff like that, even, but the branding for the podcast itself too, neon lights. I was at where was I? I was at Walmart actually, and I forget what I was looking for, but I saw like a clearance rack, and it's just like a sticker of lights like that, and they stick right
Oh wow.
there. Yeah, I think they were like $7 for a full string like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, man, you can get lights like that now for dirt cheap, even on Amazon.
Yeah. So what kind of so you said you owned your gym for 10 years and then you kind of got your thing going. So like what led you into the fitness industry?
Oh man, like yeah. So going back, so I guess like the root, and I'm still trying to figure this out and how to like communicate this, even for my marketing and branding for Common right now, because I'm trying to like reduce human behavior and human emotion to like one or two things when it comes to fitness. So I guess what led me working out in the beginning when I was like 15 was always being chubby and having man titties, and growing up bullied and teased for being chubby in grade school. That when I got into like high school, I'm like, man, like I don't want to be fat anymore. I don't want to be chubby. I want to look a certain way. I want to look good. And so that kind of fueled my fitness for like my adolescent years until I got into like university, where then I went into kinesiology and I started learning about the human body and anatomy and biomechanics. And so my my the fuel that was fueling me for my workout, which was I don't want to look chubby and I don't want man titties anymore, kind of went into more of the performance side of things, you know. But as I look into like, it's been 18 years now of me being a personal trainer, and I've been working out pretty regularly since I was 15. It's always rooted in insecurity. It's always rooted in I want to look better. I never want to be teased. I want to feel part of the group. I always want to be um, uh, sought after, kind of thing. So it to this day, it's still insecurity. I want to look good.
Yeah,
And
it's
I know it sounds bad to even say that, or nowadays you can't even say that anymore because you're looked at this like vain person. But like I don't know. I don't know what other human emotion or need working out serves other than being healthy for health and having longevity. But being healthy is very simple. And you know this very well. It's like get your 8 hours of sleep, eat a well balanced diet, go for some walk, do some resistance training a couple times a week, get your blood labs done. You're gonna get really, it'll tell you if you're healthy or not with your blood work, and you're pretty good. Most of us want additional things than just health. We want to look a certain way, hence why we bodybuild and why we do all this fat loss stuff. In my opinion, I think it goes beyond health. Do you
yeah.
see it as health?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, I know when you look at myself, as far as like what got me personally into working out, it was a lot of issues with self-esteem, how comfortable I felt being me. I actually did have. I told the story before on my podcast. One of the things that led me, down the path. I was kind of talking to a girl, and she's like, "Oh, you're too skinny for me." After I didn't know shit about fitness at this time, so all I knew, I worked in retail for years. I was about 220, maybe 35% body fat. So I was like, oh, well, if I eat less and I just go run a bunch, that will probably fix it. But it, went to the other extreme where I was like super skinny. So he's like, oh, you're too scrawny. Ended up dating this like big buff guy. And I was like, oh man, I got to catch this guy. So, I start going to the gym and then that, here we are today. It's funny when you look at like clients that come to you for help and stuff. I think depending on sometimes it's age dependent. They're either looking to look really good naked or they just don't want to die and they want to add years to their life. And I love that you brought that up because I'm very blunt and direct. And I just like to get to that immediately. Like, I don't want to hear that you want to tone up. I don't want to hear that, you're looking to shed a couple pounds. I want to hear that, like, you want to look sexy on the beach or your back hurts every time you stand up. And once we get to those things, I think you could really anchor in. And then the plan becomes that much easier to adhere to. And when you're honest and open about like what your goal actually is.
Yeah, man, I agree with that because it, to say that you don't want to look good is obviously a lie. Now, not everybody's gonna care about that, but to some extent, somebody like some people go to the extreme of they become professional bodybuilders because they're obsessed with it, and then others just grow biceps and look decent on the beach, right? It depends on what your level of looking good means, and that can mean different things for so many different people. Like, I never want to be a bodybuilder and be huge because that's not what I think looks good on me. Not say that like man, if I was like ski bum, yeah, fuck, of course I would do it. But
Hmm.
for me, I have a certain look that I like on myself. I don't care what other people do; it's more on me. So I think everyone has their own definition of what looks good naked, and I think you can mesh that with health and mesh that with performing well and mesh looking good with not having your back hurt. It's just called really good training, and then you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at some of the things that you see in your business and with the clients that you work with and the groups that you work with, what are some of like the very easy in the beginning things that you see holding a lot of people back from even getting started?
It really comes down. I think this comes down for any result you're looking for, whether it's fitness or whatever. I think it's more of the person's mental state and their belief in themselves. And I say this because I've been through that, not only from a physical standpoint with my fitness, but also like with my business. Like if your headspace isn't right, if you're not ready to fully commit, um, if you don't have that self belief, it's very difficult to take action to then start the cascade of steps that are going to lead you towards success. I think number one is like, do you believe in yourself? And then that'll open up a can of worms because if you don't believe in yourself, well, why don't you believe in yourself? What happened in the past? What traumas or non traumas did you have in your life growing up, or maybe even recently? And there's a lot of behavioral psychology involved in that. That for you and I to talk about scientifically is going to be very difficult, and it's very difficult as trainers to expose that to clients who come to you and say, "I want to look better naked," because that is all psychology right there.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you master your own mind? I don't know. I can't really help you master your own mind, but I believe through fitness a little bit, you can sort of master your mind once you hit these milestones. So I guess to answer your question, like, what's the thing that's holding people back from starting is maybe like not believing in themselves that they can achieve it, because most people come to us having not ever succeeding in their health and fitness. Maybe they don't know if what they're doing is actually going to work, so why even bother? And maybe not trusting what the process looks like for them. So if they're hiring a trainer, but they don't really believe in the system, they're like, this is not going to work. So why put my all if it's not going to work? I think there's a lot of factors influencing it, which is all psychological behavior.
That's so true. A lot of people, the that's the biggest thing that I see uh, is just a lack of belief. And one of the things that I try to highlight is, and sometimes, yeah, I try not to walk on eggshells, but sometimes I'm like, hey, just be honest with you. Why would you believe in yourself? Like, what have you done? I'm here to help you start doing things. It can be anything. It can be something super complex, something super light. When was the last time you ran super fast in your life? And or how? When was the last time you saw how high you could actually jump? Can you throw something really high and stuff like that? And as you start to play with those variables, you start to build those little like building blocks where it's like, oh, I'm not like I'm 35. I'm not actually like 70. Like my life, it doesn't end here. And I think that's one of the beauties of the things that we do that we get out of it from a coach standpoint when we see our client kind of develop that way.
Yeah, I mean, so as you're talking about this, it's also making me realize that, and it's kind of sad. I think a lot of people are missing that swag that they need to start something. And when I say swag, I mean like that inner confidence and belief that you can do something. And I've kind of always had that, and maybe I had to maybe that was my coping strategy for being bullied and teased, that I had to be my own guy that would hype me up, because I didn't have friends in grade school that would hype me up. They would always kind of bring me down. So maybe that was like my way of of coping and having that hype man. I had to be my own hype man. So but I just feel like everyone's bored in life. Everyone's going through the monotony of life. They work 9 to 5. They maybe go out on the weekends, but it's nothing fun. It's a very like the status quo is very boring. And why would you believe in yourself, or why would you want to do something if you're always bored? So it's like, is it a self belief issue, or is it I'm just bored. I have nothing that's exciting me. I don't know what's happening in life. I'm just going through the day to day trying to keep up with paying bills and going to work, and maybe you have kids or whatever the case may be, and status quo is boring, man.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I have such a disdain for it, because like I'm just projecting my own insecurities and shit onto it, and that's why my brand exists.
Yeah, I've always looked at it. I've been super fortunate to live both sides of it. So fresh out of 18, I started working at Best Buy. Just needed some beer money, and working in sales that kind of led me into um, a little bit of growth. I would say, looking back, it's one of the most valuable skill sets that I've ever acquired.
Yeah,
Was my ability to sell things. But much like you, one of those things that I've always kind of had. And sometimes I think to myself, "Oh man, am I like delusional or something like that?" Like I always think that I can be the best in any particular field, whether it be like you make me the CEO of Apple tomorrow. Like I think that I could do that job. And obviously, the part of it that I kind of like is okay. I'm now the CEO of Apple. Like, can I actually like? And you prove it to yourself, and as you do that repetitively, and it doesn't have to be that big of a task, that big of a job, but it could be anything. Like, what if I got promoted at work? What if I was running the company that I work for? Like, could I do that? Like, and you kind of learn those skills and you learn those things about yourself as far as is that something that motivates you or are you just going through the motions? So for me, I always had that drive to kind of advance. And I reached a point where I was like, I've been in retail for 10 years now. I think I could be the president of sales for the entire country, hands down. And it actually led me to leave the company and kind of just explore my own thing. Like, almost like a, okay, Anthony, you seem to be so confident in yourself that you can do this. Like, go try, try to prove it. And been on that road, been on that road ever since. But yeah, it's definitely something that I've always had that I notice that sometimes when I try not to talk too much about my business and what I'm up to, mostly because I don't like talking about it unless you're directly related to it because I don't want it to be like a script I'm rehearsing that sounds great so that way you think I'm okay that then convinces me that I'm doing things when largely for the most part I mean this is a long road. I don't really believe I'm that far down the road and I want to don't want to lose sight of that so it's very interesting for sure.
yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, and to your point, I feel the same way in the sense of like I had no hesitation with the rebrand. I had no hesitation doing my streetwear brand. I had no hesitation doing online stuff because I'm like, oh, I'll just figure it out, right? Like I'm not a dumb person. I can figure this out.
Yeah.
It's not like we're living in the 1900s. We're like this is 2023. You can search anything and learn anything whenever you want. And so like when I get people, even like with my streetwear, I mean, mind you, it took me a few years since I've having my gym. I kind of like always did like the cheapish stuff, but even with like getting suppliers out overseas, I'm like, oh, like how am I gonna I'm not a big brand. Like, how can I do this? And then you end up doing. You're like, oh, it's not that bad. Making networking and connections and learning the ins and outs of the trade. I'm like, oh, this is all like. I guess I'm gonna answer that question that you asked me about what's causing people to not start with this one statement is the fact that other human beings are doing big things, whether they're CEOs of big brands that we know of, or if they're pro bodybuilders, or people that you know at your workplace, or your friends that have a sick physique. The common denominator in all those people that are succeeding is that they are human, in the sense of they shit, they piss, they sleep, just like me. And so there's nothing that's really stopping me from doing that because we're all human. And I know that they have insecurities and they have needs that they have to have met, and like they're no different than I am. So I'm like, oh, I can do it too then. That's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, people vastly underestimate also time in like what we do is very much a craft. Also, like if you are someone who says, "Hey, you're not a coach or a trainer, you're just day one in the gym. I'm going to get shredded and I'm going to compete on stage." Like there's like hundreds of thousands of hours of mastery of your body, your movement, your planning, and a lot of it is the difference between someone like Sebum and someone who's just starting out is probably time. And maybe as you get closer to Sebum, there's a couple different. There's more nuance there for sure what you have available to you, or what your network's like. But a lot of it is time. Like someone who's like that Bruce Lee quote, like "Fear not the man that's practiced 10,000 different kicks, but the one that's practiced one kick 10,000 times." Like that's the part that I think a lot of people miss, where it's like, yeah, like my workouts this year look very similar to what they did last year, and they look very similar to what they did the year before. The only difference is the weight is just much higher, and the result is better, and it moves better, and I feel better, and stuff like that.
So I guess the question really comes down to what is it that you need as a person, as a human, as an individual that is going to make you do the things every single day? Because if time is the thing that's going to lead you towards success, what do you need as a human to keep you motivated? I guess that's not the good thing to say nowadays. Disciplined, whatever word you want to use. Like what's going to keep you in the game? And I think for me, uh, the way I look at things is that confidence in knowing that you're having a good time in life or that your life is going to become something big. I have a hard time articulating this. Um, but you have to have that like excitement, even if it's like listening to your favorite song or putting on your favorite shirt or going to your favorite gym to get a workout in. You have to find those small little like excitement levels to keep you in the game, if that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. I love talking about motivation and discipline. I think if you look at society as a whole, if we all believe that discipline stuff, society would look completely different. So, in large part, the reality currently, it's, I mean, you'll have motivation in waves, right? There aren't many days where I'm like, oh, I'm excited to go to the gym, but I go to the gym 6 days a week. Um, I think we all have motivation, and it's all different. And I don't think a lot of us know how to frame it correctly to be able to use it as something that keeps you in the game, right? So, for me, growing up, from age about 20 to 27, I worked, I drank a lot, I was depressed a lot, I was sad all the time. Um, I was kind of a loner. I had a group of friends, strong group of friends, but a lot of my times, I spent alone thinking in my head, not really working stuff out, didn't really work through past trauma. So I had all these like pent up emotions. And as a child, I was very angry. As I got older and I kind of learned to like look inside, it became like, oh, bad things are going to happen in life, or unfortunate things, or any scale betrayal, heartbreak, you lose your job, or I think maybe a death in the family is probably the only thing that won't apply to what I'm about to say. But you have these moments that can feed you if you know what to do with them. For me, it's the negative moments. So like, hey, good job, praise, recognition doesn't really do it for me. It's the failures that keep me going. It's trying the hard thing, and it's using that for fuel because it's going to be there always. You're always going to have someone who may not like you. You're always going to have someone in a more fortunate situation than you. You're always going to have someone who might be mean to you. You might run into a failure. You might lose that job. You might lose out on that promotion. And it's like, if you have to, I looked at it as, if I have to feel this way, I'm going to get something out of it. And over time, that became one of my things. David Goggins talks about this concept a lot too, where he's got like his cookie jar. Like for me, that's my cookie jar. And it's like, yep, I got this. Watch me. We're going to prove that person wrong, prove this person wrong. And that's kept me in the game. And it's never been like, yay, I want to go work out. Or I'm so hyped to work out. And occasionally those workouts do happen, whether you're working out with a buddy you haven't seen in a while or you're starting a new program, right? But that stuff fades quick and it slowly reverts back into what your current mechanisms for getting yourself up in the morning and like your purpose and how aligned that is all together. So,
Yeah, that's a good thought. So to, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is the thought of you potentially failing or something going not not in line with how you see things by you doing all that you can not have that happen is what drives you.
a little bit, yes, but I'm talking more of like the times where like the fucked up thing happens and you're just sitting there with that emotion and it's like, where does it go? Like, do you process it out? Do you write it out? A lot of it for me, I act it out, right? So it comes out through activity, and that became the most effective way for me to get it out. So some of the things, I'm taking it with me, right? So yes, I always have like that pursuit of a high goal and like, hey, we can't fail this goal, like we got to make this happen. But
Yeah,
also I take any negative thing that really happens and it's coming along for the ride. It's like Gatorade at this point.
gotcha. So it's like a kind of like a comeback story. It's like, yeah, it happened, but I'm gonna take it with me and kind of use it as like a will to survive kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what it's become, and for me, that's the thing that keeps me quote unquote disciplined. It's just that because I know it's there, and I'd rather use it to fuel myself through a workout or to do something challenging or to push myself, as opposed to just sitting there and just festering over it and thinking about it. Like both times, it's going to be there with you. Might
Yeah,
as well carry it to something productive and get some kind of reward for it.
yeah. I still struggle with the term discipline versus motivation, and I know it's like the cool thing to talk about on social media. And it seems like social media goes through these trends. As soon as like one influencer or a couple influencers that have a big following and that get a lot of views on a certain topic, then like it trickles down into every other online coach talking about that same topic, and they always regurgitate the same three talking points. And one of them is like discipline. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around if I even believe that discipline is what leads me to do what I do, if my habits or whatever. And it's like, you know, like it had somebody talk to me about discipline being like, like you don't wake up in the morning to go to work because you're motivated. You do it because you're disciplined. And I'm like, no, you're motivated by the paycheck that you get every 2 weeks. That's why you wake up. And you're motivated by the fact that if you don't get your ass up, you're not going to eat and you're probably going to get fired. So that's a motivation thing. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around like, because I know for myself, like, I may not be super motivated to work out, but when I'm in it, I use motivational tactics to keep me working out consistently and hard. And that could be from, I'll be very transparent. It could be as basic and as vain as, yo, dog, you're the coolest dude in the gym right now, to uh, I want to hit my goal of squatting 315 or 350 to I know that if I look good, I'm going to feel good mentally. When I feel good mentally, I'm going to bring Common to another level and I'm going to be able to impact more people. So there's a lot of, or as basic as, yo, this song is so good right now. It inspires me. It's that emotion that's invoked within. It gives you chills down your spine that makes you be like, yo, I got this. And so my motivation comes from many different factors. And sometimes it's meshed all into one. And so like maybe discipline's part of that, but I look at discipline as you're being forced to do something in, as a punishment. So it's like, for example, take this thing, otherwise you'll lose your job in the last couple of years. That's discipline. Like you weren't like you were disciplined into taking that action because it was a form of punishment. So I have a hard time understanding what it is, and quite frankly, I don't give a shit. And I guess that this is my point. Whether it's motivation or discipline, whatever gets people off their ass and attacking life. For me, it's motivation slash. I think it's more inspiration than it is motivation. I'm inspired to do things because of what I just said in the last like 30 seconds to a minute was, yeah, like it could be as cool as a song inspiring me, or that I feel like I'm the coolest dude on the planet, or whatever.
The funny thing about what you just said is, and I totally agree with you, someone's going to listen to this and they're going to think about what they think of when they run. And that you have that funny gym meme where, like, and I do this when I run sometimes. You're running and you're like, oh, if I don't get to that, if I don't beat that car to that stop sign, I'm gonna die, and the world's gonna end. I gotta go,
Yeah,
which is hilarious, but it's so true that we think of it that way. Or you have like the, oh, I got to run for 20 minutes. Oh, that's just 4 or 5 minute intervals. You know what I mean? That's 5 minutes 4 times. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't necessarily have like specific thoughts of that. Mine is kind of like I just sit. I like my mind is just like it goes very calm, very stoic, like in like a mode of I'm in a theater watching all my past failures playing, and some of it's analytical for me. So like, there's been a lot of times I've just been stumped on an issue, and like I'll just go in that mode and mindset, and things I've seen it a little bit clearer. The same way, like if you were to watch a movie 100 times, on the 100th time, you probably might see a different perspective than you usually do. And that kind of keeps me in it. Inspiration, though, I love that you said that, 'cause that actually does sound way better than motivation. and or discipline. Because a lot of times, like the one thing with people, and you see like mental health being such an issue, like it's like okay, you're depressed or you're down or you're having bad times. What's your purpose? And if you don't have an answers for that question, almost always you're going to see some form of slump in your mental health. You will see some form of depression. If you're locked in on that, you can weather a storm or two. And obviously, you want a good support system around you, but a lot of it is internal. And it's like, am I on task with my purpose? Pass or fail, like this was the journey, and I'm aligned with that.
Yeah, I like that a lot too because, like I've weathered quite a bit of storms, even like being a business owner, the brick and mortar in my hometown here. That was tough, and going through some shit there and some struggles, and then like you get hit by a pandemic, and then you lose quite a bit of members, you lose financially, and then I go into this rebrand into this unknown, which is the online space. And listen, I'll be honest, it's not all roses and rainbows and like money coming in. Like it's a struggle, and you have to. It's a constant. It's like you're chiseling away um, the David. If you're Michelangelo, it was Michelangelo that did that, right?
Yeah.
The David. It's like you hope that you're chiseling away at this masterpiece with your business, whether it's online or brick and mortar or whatever, every single day until you get this reveal of the David or of this masterpiece that you've created. And sometimes, man, the chisel's not sharp. Sometimes the hammer doesn't hit hard because you're just down in the slumps. And though, your purpose is this David, is the masterpiece. And if you can always keep the masterpiece, and I guess what people have a hard time seeing is the end result, is the masterpiece. All they see is this block of marble or this block of whatever, and like they're like, oh man, like look how ugly this is. I'll never be able to carve a David out of this.
Yeah.
What I always had in me was seeing the vision, seeing the end result way before I even started. So I guess what keeps me inspired to go along with like your purpose story is my purpose, my vision is being able to see that masterpiece that I'm creating, and that's what kind of keeps me inspired and motivated. And I'm not gonna say discipline because I fucking hate that word. It's such a and when somebody says, "Oh, you just have to be disciplined," Anthony, thank you, thank you. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
That did not help me get off my ass to go to the gym and lose my 10 pounds that I want.
Yep. Absolutely. I think you talked about trends that you see on the internet and stuff like that. And that becomes one. And like, there's a few that I personally despise. I hate "Get Ready with Me."
Yeah,
I've literally, I think I've gotten ready with like 400 trainers at this point, both guys and girls. Like everyone's getting fucking ready for the gym. I'm like, what is like? And the funny thing, like I look at it and I'm not much for glitz and glam. I'm not much of a pretty boy anymore.
yeah, you still got them in you.
I'm gonna say anymore just because there are folks that listen to this that are gonna be like, I know you like 5 years ago, you were always like that. But it's like, it's like every morning I wake up out of bed and instantly go into a cold plunge. After that, I stare at the sun for 34 seconds. Then I go into a full sprint and I have my gluten free, organic, non GM, like, and it's just listen. And it's like, the reality is, I woke up about 5 minutes late. I'm exhausted. I can't walk because my foot hurts. It takes like 5 minutes for it to warm up. I'm limping around in the dark, like screaming obscenities. I jump in the shower, I throw whatever on, I run out the door. And I think there's a realness that we lose from that. Um, so in that in that regard, what kind of led you to then create the Rebel series? So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what was that evolution like?
Yeah, it's I guess what led me to build the Rebel series was seeing a lot of the mainstream fitness apps that are out there, like Peloton, like Thor's got one, whatever it's called, like Nike's got one. Like every celebrity's got an app for $9 a month subscription. You get these muscle building, fat torching workouts, and they're all the same. They're all hit circuit training. It's like um, I think like there's a couple workouts on the Thor app, whatever that app is called,
Yeah.
and it's like muscle building workout, and it's like a circuit of body weight squats, Supermans, and like stuff like that. And then it was like, oh, fat burning workout. It's like the same thing, just now it's a timed interval as opposed to reps. I'm like, yo, man, this isn't good.
Yeah.
It's good marketing, but it's not good. So I'm like, okay, if I despise that stuff, and if I don't think that's gonna help you be shredded or build a physique and look like you lift, right? Because my mission is to help people look like they lift, and I think that's what most people want, at least my demographic. How can I package up this program in an app format that provides them not only really good workouts with nutrition, but that also has coaching support? And what happens with a lot of these celebrity apps is they're just workouts, they're meal plans, but there's no coaching support with it. There's no so, nobody's walking you along the journey of, okay, like, hey, like, day one in the gym, this is what you should expect. If you have questions, hit me up on the Discord. I'm always there. Send me your technique videos and I'll critique them. Like, there's all that nuance that needs to be addressed once you cross that bridge. So, like, I'm not going to create an app where, 6 months down the road, I'm going to, give you cues that I don't know if you need yet. So the program is set up with all the cues you're going to need, knowing that you're going to need help the first week, the second week, the fifth week, the 50th week. So come to me with your questions, and then I can help you individualize the program for your exact needs. So seeing a big gap in the industry of celebrity apps and not having a lot of really good sound quality training was lacking. So that was the whole goal behind the Rebel series. Otherwise, the flip side would be to hire an expensive trainer, or if you have a online coaching program that like if you want to work with me privately online, it's quite expensive. So maybe someone doesn't have that budget yet, and so they need that same quality training for like a super fraction of the price.
Yeah. I love that idea too. And I've been playing with some concepts like that myself. Almost like I think of it almost like a safari. Like we're gonna go check out some lions, we're gonna go see some zebras. I'm with you, like in the Jeep. Like we're on this mission. The experience is probably going to be a little different for all of us, based on our experience. But yeah, I love that idea there, and I agree with you. I think there's way too much cookie cutter bullshit. Honestly, if I were to type into Chat GPT right now, give me a 4 week workout, I'll find 70% of Instagram's trainerized community going on there. And personally, I hate it too. Like I'll talk to people and they're like, "Oh, this plan that got me doing burpees. It's got me doing all this crazy body weight stuff." Not saying there's not a place for body weight stuff, but depending where you are, it might not be the best choice for you, especially depending what your body controls like. And I think it unfortunately tacks on to what everyone kind of sees. If we all look at our bank accounts right now, there's probably something that we've paid $8 for every month for the last year, and just it doesn't register. What registers is the $180 charge, or the light bill, or the bigger purchases and stuff like that. But we don't see that little, $4 or $5, $7, monthly bill for something we might not even be using. I know personally I'm guilty of that myself. So like when you talk about like nutrition support, like are you talking like macros? Like are you giving guidance or
So everybody that signs up to the Rebel series gets like a PDF nutrition guide that I've compiled, and it goes through the basics, like what's a calorie, what's a macronutrient, protein, carbs, fat, like what kind should you be eating, and then I kind of like break down, like specific goals. So like I say, like, if you want to maintain your body weight, here's a formula for you to figure out your calories and your macros. If you're trying to lose fat or gain muscle, this is how you should sort of figure out your calories, and explain that, okay, this is just a estimate, this number. We're going to have to figure out if it's real or not. So you're going to have to track your food. And I know that not everybody wants to track their food. I'm kind of one of them. And I do sporadically throughout the year just so I can keep a baseline. But what I'm really trying to give people is, okay, this is a template. Maybe you're going to have to, and actually, I just used this the other day as a story, is like if you're going somewhere new in life, let's say you're taking a vacation and you're taking a road trip, you're going to use a GPS so you get there the quickest, the safest, and you know where you're going. So the GPS is your best thing. But let's say every year you and your family go to the same spot for vacation and you've gone for like 5, 6 years straight. Well, the GPS is no longer needed because you know the way, you know the route, and maybe you're gonna find different alternate routes that are more scenic. Maybe you want to stop at different other locations on the way, so you're gonna find other routes to get you to that same place. That's how your fitness nutrition should be. It's like, yeah, maybe you're gonna need to track your macros for 90 days, maybe even 6 months, just so that you can figure out, the quickest way to get there. But once you've been there a few times, you can kind of turn off the GPS a little bit, and then you can decide, okay, maybe instead of having oatmeal and berries every morning, I can have a bagel or a croissant. Because to me, whether it's 30 grams from here or 30 grams from that, I can kind of figure out that I'm going to be okay with that. But that's up to you to decide what you want to eat. And one thing that I can't stand, if we're going to talk about like trends that we can't stand, is that like I don't want to eat oatmeal, PB2 powder, and egg whites and protein cookies. Fuck you. I want to eat. I just spent 3 weeks in Italy. I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw my story.
I
Okay,
I
so
did.
I got back like a couple weeks ago, and like I left my heart there because I'm like, yo, man, this is the life. Because I'm Italian, right? I grew up with the culture of being Italian, and I spent my summers in Italy as a kid. So there's a special place for me in there, and I know their lifestyle. It's in the morning. There's no bacon and eggs or protein. It's a sweet. It's a croissant. It's a little cookie with a coffee. Lunch, it's a big plate of pasta, some bread, and some cheese. For dinner, something light, maybe couple slices of bread, some prosciutto, some salami, some cheese, and then you're done. There's no snacking. There's no emphasis on protein. And so I'm like, yo, man, I'm gonna live this life here because I'm on vacation. It's 3 weeks. I'm like, fuck fitness for now, dude. I ate nothing but pasta, pizza, gelato, and croissants every day.
As it should be.
Minimal protein, maybe 50 grams at most. But I did a ton of walking. And I only lifted 3 times while I was away just because I want to check out the vibe and I just want to see what it was like. But I'm like, yo, I didn't die. I didn't lose my gains. I didn't go overboard. And so I guess like I'm going to tie this back to what we were talking in the beginning about like what gets people going and how to get them inspired. It's like when you're really happy in your heart, you don't need to cope with things like food because you're bored or because you're lonely or you're emotional. It's because you're being met through, in my case, my needs were being met through being in my homeland, seeing the scenery, going out and walking and checking out the different villages and going to the beach. And like that to me is where my heart, and I was with my family that was over there. So like that was filling my need so well that I'm like, yo, I'm good with one croissant. I'm good with a plate of pasta. Versus here, in the wintertime in fucking Canada when I'm lonely, I'm borderline depressed, cold here, I'm not happy with where I'm living. Then I'm gonna have 3, 4, 5 croissants. I'm gonna have a whole bag of cookies. Not because I want it, because I'm feeling a need, and that's how I cope. I cope by eating food. So, so I guess like to tie this all together, it's like, yo, man, once you know what makes you happy, you gotta chase that. And I can't answer that for. I can't answer what makes you happy. I know for me, chasing the fact that I'm going to be living in Italy one day, or at least being able to relocate there for a few months out of the year and spend my time doing that stuff, that's what fires me up. Journey not only on my physical health, but on my business's health. It's that. It's like, dude, that was a long tangent, but I don't know where I was going with that. But it's like that's where people need to sort of fucking get it.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Italy too. So I mean, I saw the trip. It looked amazing. I need to add that to one of my destinations.
Do it.
Um, it's the relationship with food for a lot of people is interesting. So I've at this point I've tried kind of everything. Most recently, most of the summer I was on the carnivore diet, still
Okay, cool.
lifting, still lifting, still running too. Not as not super endurance running, but I was still getting after it. And I felt amazing. But I've also felt amazing eating a balanced diet. I felt amazing where 70% of my diet's pretty clean. The rest of it is kind of bullshit sometimes, and that happens usually in the fall, winter. But yeah, so like it's so important like to actually enjoy like what you're doing, and if you've been doing the same thing for a long time, like you said, like that GPS, like it wouldn't hurt you to try a different route. Um,
Yeah.
Speaking of Italy, so I'm fascinated with a lot of changes in the meat industry. I've been looking into it.
Mm.
Shout out to Italy for one, having great food, two, their food looking amazing aesthetically, and three, them banning lab grown meat.
Yeah, it's it's dope because one thing that I've realized, and now, so like I always went as a kid with my family. So you're a kid, you don't really care, right? You're just eating food there. But now that I'm older, I'm an adult, and I'm into this whole health and lifestyle stuff. I really got to understand the true essence and culture of Italy, and I'm sure it's the same in other parts of Europe, like France, maybe Croatia, maybe I can speculate. I imagine it's similar, but in Italy, the true essence and the culture is really so. And actually, this was confirmed by my cousins over there. So we actually went out for sushi. Never thought I'd go out for sushi in Italy, but my cousins took me out for sushi there, and my cousin's boyfriend, who was in the military there, he's big into working out and fitness. So we are talking back and forth about fitness and training, and he goes, the only issue here in Italy is that our social is meeting up with friends and drinking and eating. That's just life here in Italy. It's social. It's always surrounded by drinking and eating because it's how we communicate. It's how we socialize. And so, for the first time, I realized that the true essence and the culture of Italians is uh, coffee, bread, and really good food. And the food is very simple. So even when I was at like the hometown, um, where my dad was born, that's where I stayed. It's like it's up on a mountain, population of like maybe like 200-300 people at most, and we were eating food that was grown on that mountain. So whether it's the vegetables, whether it's the eggs from the chicken coops that are down the street, whether it's the figs that were grown there, or even the pork that was butchered from a live pig from last winter, like we're eating it from the land, So I'm like, all this food is so tasty and good, and then we're mixing in the air and the water from the natural springs from the mountains that I was drinking. I'm like, this is a fucking dream.
Yeah.
We're so disconnected from that, especially in North America. And maybe if you live in like the rural areas of North America, maybe you probably have living off the land. But I don't want to preach this by saying that you have to become the douchebag influencer online that's like, I just eat what I grow in my garden. Like, we need to stop sensationalizing these, like, it's like, yo man, we're just normal humans that are living like people lived pre-technology, right? Like people in the hometowns in Europe and Italy eat eat normally because that's how they grew up, not because it's some trendy thing to do where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna live off the land. Fuck you, influencer. It's not that. It's they're just living normal. And so if I extrapolate that into today's world in my life in Canada, I just want to be normal. And normal to me, and it's funny, my business is all about not being normal and saying fuck you to status quo. Yet I want to be normal in what I eat. Meaning, I want to eat pizza, I want to eat pasta, I want to have croissants. Yes, I'm gonna have vegetables and fruit and all the good stuff. But why do I have to make it fitness friendly? Why can't I just have a plate of pasta and know that it's a carb and
Yep.
that this carb isn't gonna make me fat if I utilize it? So I guess I guess me going anti status quo is going back to what normal is because nobody knows what that means anymore. Because everyone's so like, oh, there's Snickers with a protein, gotta be healthy.
Yeah.
Like,
A lot of that stuff irks me so much. Like you'll see, what was I watching the other day? Paul Saladino.
yeah,
Like the guy makes great points. The guy's very intelligent. He's super educated. He's one of the most educated people you'll probably come across on social media. But he I think where we lose like good messaging and sound intelligence, like he goes into a Chipotle and he literally asks the girl at the counter, and he's like, "Why do you put seed oils in your food?" And it's like, Doug, like I get what you're saying with the seed oils. The evidence would seem that maybe we need to get those out of our diets. Got it. But it's a cashier at a place who has no context of what they're putting in the food. According to her or them, they're gonna make you a burrito. They're gonna make you a bowl. There's a tortilla. There's rice. There's beans. You want chicken? How much chicken do you want? Salsa? Like, what does she know about the ingredients? Like, she's not the one making it. She's not the one making the orders, and it just leads down such a destructive road where it's like, oh my god, I can't buy this. I can't buy that. I can't do this. Now I need to get Snickers with protein when the ingredient list is probably shorter on just a regular Snickers bar. And you end up with these things in your grocery stores like Beyond Burgers, where like Beyond Burgers, the ingredient list is less appetizing than a can of dog food. Right? I did an episode where I read a can of dog food, and it sounded better. There sounded like more fresher ingredients in it, which is wild. A lot of it comes from a lot of those trends, as opposed to just being like, "Hey, yeah, fuck it, it's a pizza. Fuck it, yeah, I love me some carbs. Yeah, throw it on there." Right? And just the lack of balance is a little crazy sometimes.
I just find it's all weird because we're just all trying to sell something at the end of the day. So I understand the marketing tactics of like the Paul Saladinos and all that, but it's funny because there's a local nutritionist um, here in Windsor who like I'll creep her sometimes on Instagram, and like I could tell she's trying to be that person of scaring people for and one that comes up to mind. She was talking about how uh something off the label, how it's bad for you, and at the end she's like um you shouldn't eat this, blah blah blah, otherwise you're gonna die. And I had to stop, and I'm like, wait a second, am I gonna live forever? Wait a second, I'm not, I am gonna die. So like, how do you know if that fucking food is gonna kill you or if it's just time? Or like, and that's what, like, I'm like, yo, man, we're all gonna die. Yes, we don't want to die with pain or with disease, but you can get sorry, unless you're genetically predisposed to having a certain disease, you're shit out of luck. Okay, but if you're just gonna die of natural old age, basic things are gonna keep you healthy. Getting your heart rate up, making sure that you can increase your heart rate through activity, making sure that you have some lean muscle tissue on you. Like there's very simple things that you can do to keep yourself metabolically healthy, where you're gonna probably sustain a pretty nice life. But dude, I know people in Italy that I just saw who are like in their 90s, don't give a fuck about what this says online, and they live till they're 90. But were they supposed to live till they were like 105? They died at 95. I don't know, man. Like that sounds like a pretty sweet life. So like, I don't know. I think it's all dumb.
Yeah, a lot of it is sales. I would do unfathomable things to get a version of social media. I'd pay for it. I'd campaign for it. I'd be its biggest supporter. A version of social media where I can opt out of just ads entirely and just see people I'm interested in that say interesting shit that vibe with me and what I like to do, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because it infiltrates everything, and then suddenly you're like, oh, here's my this favorite protein or that favorite protein. Where a lot of people, and I in my nutrition coaching when I'm coaching clients, the biggest cue I give them is drink water, right, and eat. Here's how much protein you should eat, and here's how you measure it by hand. Just make your plate colorful and make sure that you like what's on the plate. And like the colors is obviously going to get you some nutrients. And if you like it, you're going to keep eating it, and eventually it'll clean itself up. But at the flip side of that, you got detox this, detox that, and this tea, that tea.
I was talking to a buddy of mine last night, and I go to him. I go because we were kind of complaining about social media a bit because he just got back on. He took a break from it. Now he's back on with his business. But I'm like, it's funny because like everybody is telling you how to live your life except you, right? Like everyone's telling you what to do. It's like, yo, man, you're a fucking adult. Figure it out. Like, and I know that sounds such like a bad thing to say because I'm selling a product as well. I'm selling a service, so it's like I want you to hire me to help you figure it out. But like at the end of the day, it's not complicated. Figure it out. It's your life. It's not my life. It's your life.
Yeah.
So like it just do it. But people are so hesitant to do something or to start something because they're scared it's not the right thing. It's not the thing to do that's going to help you get. Just try. See what happens.
Yeah.
If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, switch.
Yep. For sure. I've had so many clients that are like, hey, I want to start up, I want to strength train. Here's some of the things I got going on. Here's my goal. Great. We'll start on Monday. Monday comes around and it's like, well, actually, I was reading this thing and like, now this is the goal. Maybe I should chase this first to get ready. And I'm like, oh, I just wish you just wouldn't read anything for at least 2 months. And that's it. But so I've a question before as we get to the end here.
Yeah.
So you're obviously in Canada.
Yeah.
How are you? What's it like in Canada? The climate around the weight loss drugs like Wegovy, Ozempic, and Mounjaro.
I know Ozempic is used here.
Yeah. So long term, right? When you look at sales projections by 2027 of 1 billion a year for that industry, which is about four times. I didn't see what the number was for Canada, but it's about four times what Americans spend on gym memberships. Is that something that concerns you?
No, because like in what context does it concern me? Like, what do you mean?
Is it something that concerns you in the sense of eventually we just become the afterthought and it's, hey, I need to lose weight. Let me get my Ozempic shots.
This is hard for me because having an online business, I guess my business doesn't really go after the fat loss people, and so um, it doesn't concern me to the sense that like it's going to take away from my business because I'm always going to have a specific demographic of people that wouldn't use Ozempic anyways. When it comes to like morbidly obese individuals that are like gonna die or not, why not use it? Now, I'm not saying that I'm pushing drugs on people, but like if you ever watch like those like My 600 Pound Life on TLC or whatever,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get that person to do lifestyle modification. I don't think
Yeah.
they're gonna need an intervention that is either gastric bypass or Ozempic or something that's gonna be like, yo, I need to take 50 pounds off your body by tomorrow. Otherwise, you're gonna die. So yeah, like there's always gonna be a need for that medical side of things, but then there's that fine line, that blurred line of, well, you don't need it because you're not obese, but you're just fucking lazy, so you're just gonna take this thing and pretend like you're just gonna go live your life and eat like shit and live a shit life. Then that's on you, the person that's gonna be like that's always gonna take the shortcut. So does it concern me? No. From a society standpoint, we're always going to have drugs, especially in the U.S. They push drugs all the time, whether it's mental health or fat loss. It's always going to be around. Um, uh, I think we're always going to be the second thought to health and fitness and fat loss because people are always going to trust doctors first, not trainers who can get a certification overnight.
Yeah. I like that.
I haven't given much thought about it, to be honest. This is just me coming off the top of my head about like my thoughts about it, but
Yeah. No, that's a good take on it. And yeah, a lot of that definitely makes sense. I spend a lot of time thinking about like civilization at scale on a macro level. So I look at that and you see, I see long term. Obviously, when we talk about the extreme of the extremely obese that you mentioned, sure, right? There's some of those people, yeah, you can't even get into a tub. Like we got to do something there.
yeah,
And I think the larger meat of us go into this category where it's like, we're kind of lazy one day, we kind of get after it the next day. And those are the people that potentially get swayed into it when you have celebrities taking it, movie stars and stuff like that. So it's just something that I think about. And maybe like down the road, as society gets softer, that becomes a heightened thing where it's like, I just take the shortcut. Like I don't want the grit. And at scale, I fear sometimes you might lose that grit, that edge that we have had, um, in our civilization to this standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. You know, and uh, I don't think how much Ozempic or whatever you want to use to get to that like leanness or lose weight loss. I don't think you'll ever really be happy because you're not doing it in a sense of cultivating um your own mental side of things into it. Like you're not achieving or accomplishing things. You're not overcoming obstacles in your training in your fitness. You're just taking something that's going to be a quick shortcut. Now I could be wrong, but the beauty of all this is that people can choose to do whatever they want. From a civilization standpoint, it's a very interesting thought to know what's going to happen in 100 years from now, or 1,000 years if we can even think that far in advance. Like I don't know, and I often think about our past civilization, how they were, and like I don't know, were they better? Were they worse? Or are we just all the same? We just have different technologies, and I use that in air quotes because technology can be a spoon or it can be a phone. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Imagine the civilization that built the pyramids.
yeah. They probably thought they were cooking. They were cooking actually.
Do you follow like Graham Hancock and like the new theories of the pyramids and all that stuff? How like it must have been an ancient civilization that was far superior than us that got wiped out by a catastrophe, and then the Egyptians that took it, that found it, they use it for their own stuff, but it was really built by an ancient civilization that was more superior than us.
Is that the ones where you see like they think the pyramids are the top of these big pillars that are?
I'm not sure if they've gone through that route, but there's a guy named Graham Hancock who's gone deep in this through like carbon dating and through like other stuff. Um, uh, I think there's some conspiracies where it's like yeah, like they're the tops of these longer pillars. I don't think it's that per se. I think that's just always gonna be conspiracy. Um, but there is evidence suggesting that the Egyptians didn't do these pyramids. They were actually done by a civilization that was around like 13,000 years ago that was far superior and that kind of left clues as to how, because like these pyramids were gigantic. These monoliths that were left are massive,
Yeah,
and that like slaves doing it would have been kind of weird. So, anyways, I'm just thinking like we're just a blip in the universe. So I don't know if like we really matter,
that's a fair point.
if a chemical in our body really matters. I don't know. I'm trying to really like macro, like really like have like a bird's eye view of this. I don't think it really matters. We're
Yeah,
gonna die.
death, taxes,
Yeah,
and gains. That's it.
yeah. T-shirt. But yeah, I mean, like, listen, I'm just spitballing ideas here, and I don't even know if I believe everything that I say. I just this is my thought process. I always kind of speak out loud, and then I make my own opinions off of my own opinions down the road.
Yeah, love it. So what's next for the Common brand?
Right now, I'm just trying to grow the Rebel series. We're trying to get people on board and impact as many as I can, and I'm just trying to get people to have a different perspective on health and fitness, and more so on what I preached today, which was, can we just be normal? And I think to close this out, it's like the end. So like fitness and training is a means to an end for me in the sense of it's gonna allow me to live a life that I want to live, which is eat normally, travel the world one day when I have more means to do that. Like it's a stepping stone to live a life. Whereas a lot of people use fitness and they hold on to training and fitness as their sole identity. And they become these like zealots about it. They become like, no, no, no. My life now is a mom who works out at 5 a.m. It's like, yo, man, stop it. It's gonna allow you to live a life. Go live your life now. Don't let your life become fitness.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want to, like, I love it, but like I don't want to fucking always work out and train
Yeah,
or be that.
that's what that's well said. So where can people find you? Where can they check you out?
Yeah, you can always find me on Instagram, common_original, and you can so common is spelled COMMXN _original. If you want to check out my Rebel series, it's going to be the link in my bio, or you can just go to common.com and you get to see what I got going on there. And also my streetwear. We always come out with some new drops every 3 to 4 months or so. Or actually, our next. So I'm actually opening up. So the goal in this winter is to just open up my catalog so that people can order whatever graphics I've had in the past. That way, there's no like actual drops anymore for the past stuff because my chase fears sure like only get bigger than trying.
Yep.
I'm gonna offer those year round as a catalog. That way, if you want them, you can just order whenever you please. That way, there's no like big drop every 3 months, and then I'll have these mini drops down the road. But I want to open up my catalog for everybody to buy.
That'd be awesome, man. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for doing this. I've
Yeah,
learned a
man.
lot.
This was a blast, man. Thanks for having me. We'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.